big one on Friday night.
Yeah.
What do you expect from that clash?
Yeah, obviously short turnaround from the Challenge Cup game on Sunday, so and a big one for our local community as well, as in the local derby. So it's something that we're really excited about. We've hardly trained this week, to be fair, but I think it's about an attitude. Make sure we go there and we put a performance in like round one. But we understand the challenges ahead and we're excited about it.
What's the response been like this week after that defeat against Warriors?
Yeah, obviously flat for the first couple of days, just the emotional, roller coaster that you're on in those particular games, and just a disappointment that we really didn't give our best performance there. So, but as usual, we've got to make sure we get over that quickly. And the sessions hasn't we've only trained once this week, so we've got to make sure that we turn up with the right attitude and have that as a bit of fuel behind us.
Yeah, you mentioned like using it to fuel you. How important is sort of the next sort of 1, 2, 3 games after losing a big game like that? Do you learn a lot about yourselves in this sort of period?
Yeah, I think it can be an opportunity to steel yourselves and learn and get better from it. So obviously I think there was a lot to get from the loss, in the sense of, I felt that we really didn't take control. I thought we missed the jump on a few areas, and we can learn a lot from it. But more importantly, now that we've only got the Super League to focus on, we can really drive that. We're in a decent position where we sit on the ladder, and irregardless of the win or regardless of the win or loss this weekend, I don't think the ladder will change too much. So, in the sense of holding that second or third spot, depending on what the outcome is. So, but more importantly for us, we've just got to make sure we stay together through these difficult times and respond accordingly.
Where do you think this derby with Wigan now ranks? You've obviously been on both sides of the coin. I think Lee certainly earned the right to be classed as a derby now over the last few years against Wigan. Is it one of the better ones in Super League, do you feel?
Well, I think it's certainly a derby that's improved since our promotion up, now that we're a competitive team, and most weeks we're in every single game, and I think there's been big crowds there the last couple of times we've been to Wigan, which shows that people do respect that Lee are now a club to take seriously, and I think the derby has certainly built up some exposure and profile, certainly over the last 2 or 3 years.
It's second versus third as well. You could leapfrog them with a win. Does that just add a little bit more spice to the game?
Yeah, I think that'd be great. Where we sit at the moment, like I said, I've been quite direct in the sense that I think there's so much more improvement left in us, and I'm hoping this next month of rugby will take us to that level. So obviously it starts this week after the Challenge Cup, and we're out of that now, so we can focus on the Super League. But it is probably the toughest game in Super League too. So the boys have got to get up for that challenge and make sure that we're physical.
Yeah, you mentioned it's the toughest game. It's the second time you've already had to do that tough game this season, where there are teams who haven't been there yet.
Yeah.
But what do you make of the scheduling and how that's playing?
Oh, that's frustrating, but that's another conversation, I guess. I mean, this is 2 or 3 years now. We've played them 3 times during the season, and we haven't played 4 or 5 clubs 3 times. So it's weird also how you play. The premiers from last year twice before you play probably 3 or 4 of the other clubs. So it's hard to get the head around that, but the draw is the draw, and we've got to get on with it and make sure that we go there and we got to give a good 80-minute performance for ourselves.
And yeah, the last game broke records for the lowest scoring affair. Are you expecting a bit more fluidity on the scoreline this time around?
Well, if it's the same result, I'll be happy with that. We'll take that. But I think I think it'll be a little bit more different tomorrow night. I think both teams are freed up a little bit now, and they'll be burning from that first defeat as well, which we understand. But we've been in that situation for the last couple of years ourselves on the other end of it. So, for us, it's about trying to respond from last weekend's disappointments in the sense of what the fix was. Can we do these things a little bit better? And if we can do that, then we can compete. If we dish out the same as last week, the same results will happen. So, I'm looking forward to a much improved performance.
Finally, from me, just a bit of housekeeping. Is there any fresh injury concerns? Anyone back available?
No, still no Frankie Holton or Aaron Penne. There's a 50-50 doubt over Davey Armstrong with some fluid in his knee at the moment. So apart from that, I think it's more or less the same squad as last week.
That's your time, Lemmy.
Thanks, Josh.
Hi, Lemmy. Just a couple more injury questions for you. Obviously,
yep.
Owen Trout, Ben Mamara, both picked up head injuries. They're both in your squad. I'm assuming they're good to go, yeah?
Yeah, everyone that came off with HIA last week are good to go. Yep.
With Armstrong, does that mean you're going to be carrying Bailey Hodgson again?
Well, I think Bailey's was in our team last week just because he's been one of our better players, and it's not normal that you have an outside back on the bench, but I felt, with Davey and a couple of the other boys being a 50-50 limping into the game, he needed to be there. But he's certainly been one of our best players. He gets about his business really well, and I think his performances this year for us in the 10-11 games we've had have been outstanding. So he certainly will be in that fullback position if anything happens to Davey.
Well, yeah, before you even said about Davey, I was going to ask how much of a big decision you've got there in terms of trying to get him into the squad because he's been so impressive.
I think, I'm a big Davey Armstrong fan, but also I've heard that same respect for Bailey, who's been given an opportunity and taken it with both arms, the same as Keenan Brand did at the start of the year, same as Ethan O'Neill's done. So if we can get that pressure from all players in their squad in all positions, then that can only make us better. And there's nothing better for me as coach than to be in that position of having to pick and leave someone out of the team but could deserve to be in there. So that builds pressure, but also builds performance, a better performance.
Yeah, someone else who caught me out, particularly at Magic, was Owen Trout in the back row position. Just want to know, how impressed you've been with him lately, and well, yeah.
Yeah, I'm really pleased for Owen, as you mentioned it, and yeah, it was a good point. He was a back rower by trade when he came to us, but I saw him as a middle player there, so he's been doing a really good job for us in that starting position in the front row with one of his best mates, Mulhern, and I think they've been doing a great job and probably played a big part of why we are sitting at the top end of that Super League table. But I think the moving him back to back row against Catalan certainly gave us a little bit of a different feel on the edges, and it's something that we'll look to do if things aren't the right way in the back row moving forward. So he's got a good combination with Lockie Lamb as well. So I'm excited about tinkering with that a little bit to see if it can work again.
Yeah, and just lastly from me, how much of I think you've already touched on this a little bit, but how much of a test of your mentality, grit and mettle is this week going to be on the back of such a short turnaround, obviously going to Wigan,
Yeah, I was quite vocal, I think, after the Challenge Cup match that, whoever's organised this game after such a big weekend and playing Sunday on a 5-day turnaround to play the premiers from last year's, it's a hard thing to do, and tie in the emotion of the roller coaster and on the down. The job for me this week is to try and get them up. So it is difficult to do in rugby league to turn that around, but also we're disappointed and frustrated from the way we played. So the great thing about rugby league is you can fix all of that in 5 days. So hopefully the emotional drain that's taken out of them from the weekend doesn't play a part, and we do get up for a game, but we'll soon see after the 80 minutes.